I'm Julian Coccia with SCANOSS. It's been 15 years, more than what I would like to accept, but it's been 15 years at least. It's a long journey. It all started at Ericsson. I was in charge of a project that was porting Linux to mobile platforms. This was before Android and iPhone. It was interesting because it was a lot of open source, mostly open source, in a company that did not have any open source at the time. You go from 100% proprietary to almost 100% open source. The problem is, or was, mainly license compliance and trade compliance, because open source brings cryptography, and the cryptography is required to declare your export control classification number. Then I got to work with attorneys about how to deal with so much open source in an organized way. After many, many years dealing with this processes and tools to enforce those processes, I was quite frustrated with the existing tools. The tools were made for auditing purposes. So this problem was solved 25 years ago. People worried about license compliance, about identifying the open source in the code for a license compliance purpose in an audit form, meaning you take an entire code base for which you don't know anything about, and then you scan it, and then you find and make identifications. But at the time, we're talking about 2000, 2007, 2008, we had a need of automating stuff. Large companies they have their tool chains and they need to tap into systems. And these auditing tools were horrible to interact and to automate. It was nearly impossible. So 10 years at Ericsson, I jumped into False ID, Swedish company, solved this problem for automation, for companies that needed to automate scanning. But again, development environments and development teams evolve in a way where automation is everything. And automating a CI/CD platform, you need to have an open source tool to do it. I mean, getting proprietary tools into a CI/CD automation is not comfortable. It's not what you would like to have. You want to have open source tools and open APIs and so on. So that's how I jumped into SCANOSS. It's interesting because today everybody works with open source. 90% of our code is open source. And the process to bring this open source into our code is involuntary and invisible. When you bring open source, or when you bring any external third-party code for that matter, you're assuming a liability. There is a risk of taking code that someone else has written. That code has not gone through your processes. So that's a problem to start with. And the risks you have are in many, many areas. License compliance is one. Security is another one. Also, the quality of the code you're getting. I mean, is that good code? Is code that's deprecated, that nobody has maintained in 10 years? Provenance, and this is a beautiful, polarized world that is important for some companies, especially in the military. But it all boils down to knowing the software composition. You cannot protect or comply with what you cannot see. So if you don't know that you have this open source component, you don't know where the developers are from, you don't know the quality, you don't know which algorithms you're using for cryptography, you don't know the license. So you need to start by knowing the software composition. Then comes the intelligence. We not just identify, we're not a software composition analysis solution. We do solve that problem, but we also provide a set of APIs that provide companies with intelligence on the open source. So half our APIs are for discovery. You look at your code, and then the output is a software bill of materials. And then the other half is intelligence. Input is a software bill of materials, and output is the licenses, the quality, the provenance, and so on. Security is interesting because in terms of security, there are a number of aspects. First of all, there are known vulnerabilities for open source components. So if you're using an open source component for a version that is vulnerable, that's the first thing that you need to know. For example, Log4j. Log4j was attacked because it was a vulnerability on something that would convert Log4j into pretty much a memory dump until a version. So when something is vulnerable for a range of versions. So knowing which version you're using is very important, because you know if you're affected or not by this or this other vulnerability. That is one security aspect of the open source, and you need to know that. The other one is the quality of the code I'm getting good from the security perspective or not? And then encryption. The encryption algorithms are also important from a security perspective, because companies start to worry now about post-quantum cryptography. The geoprovenance dataset provides you the composition of the location of the developers on a given project. So we can tell you if 90% of the developers are from this country or from this other country. And this is a visibility that is very valuable for companies, especially those delivering products to governments. Our customers, our users are all kinds of users: developers, SMEs, large companies, people consuming our data set through our open source. But the customers that we target are large corporations. And in large corporations, sometimes people dealing with cryptography and people dealing with license compliance are absolutely different departments. We are able to provide different data sets that target different needs.
So we have UIs, we have CLIs, which are built on SDKs. So we have a Python CLI, a Java CLI, a JavaScript CLI. We can integrate into Jenkins, for example, or SonarQube. We can also interact with Git locally, like a pre-commit Git, where a developer can do the Git commit and then gets right away the issue before it hits the revision control system.
I think we fit pretty much everywhere, not just the DevSecOps, but it could be even before, or it could be even long after the product is delivered. We have IDE plugins where when you're generating the code, you're checking your stuff right away. So the data that we provide, you can consume it in a number of ways. And every company has a different need. And we are no one to tell them this is the way that you should do things. That's the way it was in the past. But now there is a better solution, which is how we do it.